The Marvel movies are the biggest box office tentpoles that audiences all come together to watch, with every movie being treated as an event. With the cinematic universe, every movie is connected in one giant story with recurring characters, and of course the espionage group known as S.H.I.E.L.D. It's hard to remember that this very organization actually had been previously done in another film that didn't have Samuel L. Jackson. In 1998, they attempted to make a TV show starring David Hasselhoff and written by David S. Goyer. It was never picked up, but the TV pilot exists as a time capsule of the 1980s.
Actually, this was the 1990s, but based on the cheesiness of the plot, sets, costumes, and one-liners, it'd be easy to confuse this with some of the lower-tier action movies of the 80s, yet for some reason they thought this would work as a scripted television series. Directed by Rod Hardy, we have Nick Fury taken out of retirement, as Baron von Strucker is brought out of cryogenic freeze with the help of his children, along with Alexander Pierce, who is like a human C-3PO here, and Contessa Fontaine. He tracks down the children to stop them from releasing the Death's Head virus in Manhattan, which will kill over 8 million people, leverage for them to blackmail $1 billion out of the United States. So with a plot like that, it's not too outside the normal for what you'd see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In fact, this kind of silly plot was mostly avoided in the early 2000s for Marvel movies as they attempted more realism with their films, and when I say realism, I mean avoiding the comic book nature at all costs. So I'm kind of surprised this TV pilot would have a cheesy story, which is exactly the kind of stuff the filmmakers in superhero movies today often make effective. The only difference is that the MCU manages to take that tone and make a serious production out of it, while this movie goes more the route of Batman and Robin, which came out a year earlier. Not really in style of sets or color, but in the sheer bounciness and stretched imagination. It's hard to take anything seriously when it takes every cliche out of the action playbook, but also has ridiculous devices that are forced in to progress the story. In all honesty, it plays out like an Austin Powers movie, but without Mike Myers, and done seriously. I think the producers thought they were making a straightforward modern action show, but without any kind of wink to the audience. They don't seem to know how ridiculous this all is. Take the current TV version of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where there is a lot of campiness going on, but they know their limits and play up the fun. David Hasselhoff wasn't working for me at first. He's introduced in a cave, throwing a hammer into a rock because, you know, this is our tough guy, Nick Fury. Everything he says is either a one-liner or him just being a jerk. It's exactly the type of stuff you'd expect from this era of action hero, but some of it comes across as uncontrolled and stupid. Like, when the elevator isn't working, the two agents are attempting to fix it, but Nick Fury just pulls out a gun and shoots the damn thing without even warning them. It's meant to look cool, but given the attitude he's had since the beginning, you don't really laugh or cheer him on. Now, I will say that he does become more likable by the end, especially when he's poisoned, of all things. He knows he's going to die, but he's still being hammy throughout, and I kind of admire that. He looks death in the face and laughs. They try to give him some serious moments with a past lover, but that's forgettable and unnecessary. It probably needed to be developed more, and since this was a TV pilot, I assume they would have hashed it out over a couple seasons. There's not a whole lot to set up for future shows though, as this works more like a CSI episode, with each installment being focused on a new, smaller villain and taking down different death devices. That's a compliment. If they had a lot of foreshadowing, it'd make this whole thing awkward. About as awkward as all those end credits scenes for movies we'll never see. The villain is just way too obnoxious to be in this. She cackles and acts like she's in a 1930s serial, and it doesn't mix well with the rest of the already silly show. She whips out this costume, has a kiss of death, and it's just plain bad. The fact that she survives in the end must mean this was going to be the villain for the long haul, like she was going to show up in more episodes, and that would have been irritating because it doesn't work at all. The helicarrier was attempted, but it's hard to go back in time when we have the current version that looks so awesome and ingenious. Here, the CGI doesn't look awful for a TV show in the 90s, but the whole design looks awkward and unreliable. They have masks that can change your appearance, much like Winter Soldier. They have a gun that electrocutes enemies that attempt to use it, and out of nowhere, there's a lifelike robot that becomes important by the end. It's got a lot of funny editing and dialogue, and it works well as a representation of Marvel in the pre-MCU era, because everything from that time was all over the place in tone, yet never nailing their own specific tone. I can't knock it too much for what it is today, but I can see why no one took to it at the time, or why the show was never produced. I'd recommend it to Marvel completionists, but the DVD is so hard to come by. It had to be released overseas, and a rare edition was only sold at Best Buy in 2008. I couldn't even buy it, but it's on YouTube in French, while the English version is broken up into many videos. While searching for Nick Fury on Amazon, I found Cuban Fury. What's this? So Nick Frost is a salsa dancer trying to impress Rashida Jones. I can dig that plot, but overall I was disappointed that Frost's return to salsa was all based on trying to get a woman. Yet the climax tries to make it seem like he did it for himself, but no, movie, you can't just decide at the end when you were doing other things throughout. You can't suddenly change what the movie was all about. Chris O'Dowd is a dick, but not in a funny way. But Ian McShane looks damn awesome here. If you want to watch the guy from Shaun of the Dead lead a movie while dancing, this is for you. Entertaining enough, but falls short of what I wanted. What was I talking about again? Oh right, Nick Fury. If you want to watch something that's incredibly of the time, that has David Hasselhoff, who appears to be having the time of his life, then this is for you. Bad movie, but with a little fun. Thanks to Anthony for this Patreon request, and thanks to all my Patreon supporters. For only $7, you can get your own monthly movie review. Ask me to review anything I haven't already. There's also other perks like blogs, exclusive videos, and early access. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thanks so much for watching this video.